7 minutes on the downside of 7 o'clock, and time now for the big story. Now, the People's National Party has decided not to contest the upcoming by-election in St. Ann Northeast, citing proximity to the general elections and concerns over the governing Jamaica Labour Party's motives. The by-election, scheduled for September 30, is estimated to cost Jamaican taxpayers approximately 30 million Jamaican dollars. Despite the PNP's withdrawal, the Electoral Office of Jamaica has confirmed its readiness to conduct the election. We want to take a deeper look at this development this morning. And so inside of the big story, my very special guest is the president of the National Democratic Movement, Mr. Peter Townsend, who's on with us right now. Good morning, Mr. Townsend. How are you?
Good morning, Richie B, and good morning to all your listeners from all over the world. Must congratulate you on the wide range of your program in terms of your wings being spread all over the globe.
Yes.
This is very good. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Mr. Townsend, and we appreciate you. As a matter of fact, I think this is about the second or third time we're getting a chance to talk with you, and we always look forward to having these moments. Now, I want to ask you right off the bat. We see where the People's National Party are saying, we're not going to contest. Are you going to be having a candidate in this upcoming by-election in St. Ann? St. Ann Northeast?
St. Ann Northeastern, yes. No, the National Democratic Movement will not be fielding a candidate. As you know, this was a very snappy one. We are a smaller political party which doesn't have the sort of resources as the two major political parties to be ready in a whim to be contest an election which was called within 24 hours of the Member of Parliament resigning. The PNP, however, would have had a candidate there for some time now. You know, they have greater resources to contest elections, and they have been around. They are Jamaica's oldest political party, so you know they would more or less be in a position of greater readiness. And so, if they are saying that they are unable to do so, you can imagine smaller political parties would have been worse, not in a position to contest such an election called in such a short time. But what I'll say though,
yes,
is that the whole situation, Richie B, is quite concerning because yes, it is a fact that the Prime Minister has the right and the power. Well, let me not say the right. The Prime Minister has the power to call elections. But, you know, that is our constitutional arrangement in Westminster system. But I am concerned that this seems to be an abuse of such power, in that the blatant cherry picking of when a by-election is called, you know, is something that people should really look at. Because, for example, the Member of Parliament in North Trelawney, Marissa Dalrymple, the former Speaker of the House, she resigned late last year, over a year ago, and no by-election has been called to fill that seat. But in this very week, Marsha Smith resigned in Northeast St. Ann, and by the following day, the Prime Minister was calling a by-election to fill the vacancy. Fine, we know it's political gamesmanship. It's a chess game. Some people will say it's a three-card game. But I'll say it's a chess game, so they need to get a particular person. They need Matthew Samuda in Parliament, and they perhaps have other plans for Marsha Smith. And so it's a musical chair that has been set up. But to play it out so blatantly in the eyes of the public, I mean, they could have dressed it up. They could have just had call a by-election for all outstanding by-elections. They could have said we're going to have a by-election on this date to include the one in Trelawney, and there are about 3 parish council seats where councillors have died and the people are without representation. So it would have looked like a more principled move. But the way it has been handled it seemed to be a very unprincipled move.
Even the resignation of Nigel Clark recently is going to leave a vacancy, and there are some who would feel that that might have preceded even the St. Anne by-election, and it didn't.
But I mean, I can give and take in the Nigel case because his resignation is not yet in effect.
Yes.
Until I think it's the end of October. So fine, I'll cut them some slack where that one is concerned. But if their thing is that the people cannot be left out of representation, fine, then you're going to fill Marshall Smith's seat, but you need to fill the Dalrymple seat, you need to fill the councillor seat in St. Thomas, the councillor seat and 2 councillor seats in Clarendon. You need to deal with those at the same time if you are talking from a principled standpoint. So to do it in the manner in which they do it, I can't see any principle except the principle of expediency.
Although, to be fair to the Prime Minister, he did say that the others will be held as well, but he just decided to go with this one first. How does that explanation sit with you?
No, that is very mealy-mouthed, I would say, Richie B. Because if it was the case that the councillors had died a couple of weeks ago and there was no other outstanding by-election, it would be fine. If it was just Marshall Smith alone and then Nigel to come, then we could say yes. You call them as they come. But my goodness me, Mrs. Dalrymple is over a year ago.
And nothing has been done.
Nothing has been done. They not even talk about it. We have not even heard of the party having a candidate in place ready to take over the seat.
Coming at a cost of about $30 million, would you say that this it will definitely not be money well spent? And so close to the general elections?
Say that because you can't put a price on democracy, and if first of all the EOJ has to be ready at all times for elections. That's what the Electoral Office of Jamaica have been set up to do, and so they are fully staffed and resourced to handle elections at any time. And if the cost is $30 million in terms of the machinery, the human resources, and the equipment and other physical resources that it needs to run an election, then fine. But that is why I would say we need to look at, would it be cheaper if they had all these by-elections at the same time? I don't know, but we need to hear that kind of information so that the people can have a better feel that this is not just political expedience at the nation's cost, but as I said, $30 million to preserve our democracy and to have elections and to ensure the people have representation. I won't condemn that because, as I say, you can't put a price to democracy. But we wouldn't want to just be funding musical chairs that suits the Prime Minister and his party only at this time, when and that a well-defined and established principle is not being used. It is if it is an abuse of the power and of the Prime Minister called an election when he or she feels like and hence one of the reasons why the NDM has been advocating all these years to change the system, to have fixed election dates, and where a representative has died or has resigned, there is a formula in place in terms of a timeline by which elections are called. If we were to establish that in our new constitutional arrangement, it would make a big difference. But alas, they have not even included that in the constitutional reform talk going on now in Jamaica. It's all about just replacing King Charles and keeping the old vestiges of the past colonial era in the constitution, but just giving these same colonial powers to the local politicians.
Mr. Townsend, you did say that the NDM then is not contesting the upcoming by-election in St. Anne, but will you try in any way to establish a presence as a means of building momentum, as we know that the general elections are just around the corner, or are you just backing off and allowing the system to flow without your presence? or
Yes,
parts?
we'd rather spend our resources to prepare for the general election, which is due a year from now. But I said earlier on, given our constraints and tight resources, it would be foolhardy to try to enter this one to our present, because this seat has become a safe JLP seat. Ironically, it has been said in the public space that the PNP is afraid of running because they don't think they can win the seat. And interestingly, this was a safe PNP seat, and the JLP flipped it. And in a similar situation in which the then Prime Minister in 2001, P.J. Patterson, called a by-election when Danny Melvin, the then Member of Parliament, resigned. The general election was due in 2002, and it was held in 2002, but they had this by-election a year before in Northeast Centre. And Shaini Robinson, the JLP candidate, won that seat. And since then, with election cycle after election cycle, she widened the margin of victory to the extent that seats on paper has become a safe JLP seat. Hence, it's a challenge for the PNP. I don't think they're in a position to say what the NDM is saying, because they have more resources, as I said before, and they don't support a principle because they have done the same thing that Mr. Wallace is now doing, and so there's a challenge we have with both the PNP and JLP. Both of them play these games at the expense of the people of Jamaica.
So at the very least, what would be your expectations of the Prime Minister, especially as it relates to the other constituencies and divisions that you mentioned that are currently without representation?
Actually, the Prime Minister should... honestly, I don't know what to expect of our Prime Minister, because our Prime Minister's calculations and his thinking, it seems to me it's all about preserving power. It's all about a strategy for the party winning a third term. And so everything that they do, it's all calculated around that. And there's no defined principle, which is all about representation of the people. But I believe that he should do the right thing. And this, I guess they've already announced by nomination day, and so that is set already based on the law that has been
September 11 is the date.
But I believe that what he should do going forward is that he needs to show us that he's a truly a democratic person, and that he respects the Constitution and not abuse it, and call the next by-election he calls, it should be for all vacant seats. And I'm hoping that he's not going to be doing this drip, piecemeal calling of by-elections to build what seems to be some momentum where his party will cherry-pick it and call those that his party can win to build up a momentum against the PNP. But just in principle, just call it for all of them and let the people see it for what it's worth, and let the people select the replacement representative for their parish councils and their parliamentary seats.
All right, Mr. Peter Townsend, President of the National Democratic Movement, I want to thank you for coming on this morning and for giving your side of the story. Have a wonderful day and a great weekend.
Thank you, Tuan. Thank you for having me.
All right, our pleasure. Thank you very much. That's a chat there with Mr. Peter Townsend in the big story.